Hello there, guys, and welcome to this week of the NPL Weekly Podcast. And we've been inspired this week. We need a bit of a rebrand. So this week it's gonna be Birb Blitz Sea Kings. That's what it's gonna be this week. We have two excellent guests this week. I cannot believe the strings we pulled to get these people. They're big GBA names, I think. I don't know. But this week we're gonna do some rapping. We're gonna probably do the matches in the form of poetry. Poetry is the only way to really discuss games these days. And at the end, I'm gonna do some quiz, like how many games can a Stunfisk lose in a week? The answer is I don't know. Tapu Koko with HP Ground. So first and foremost, you just heard someone who decided to laugh because I'm amazing, and that is Chimpact. Hello, Chimpact.
I mean, Fizz totally didn't deserve to win. He didn't hacks.
Well, that's not Chimpact. That's Turbo Blaze. Dang it. I got told I was having Chimpact, but apparently because I didn't show up last week, I didn't get Chimpact. I cry every time.
I mean, the MPL has lost a bit of budget, and so Jolt has got me instead.
I mean, it's probably because it's Greg has gone on a Mardi Gras trip. Weird.
I mean, can you blame me for going to Mardi Gras? It's pretty fucking fantastic. I'll have you know that.
I was going to say, I was surprised the description, the adjective there wasn't fabulous.
It's given. It's Mardi Gras. Come on now.
Yeah,
Let's be real.
All right. So there's a lot of things that have happened this week in the NPL. First and foremost, we're going to discuss last week's games as we always do. Got some cracking games, some cracking 6-0s, some results no one would have saw coming. Not even Baby Nick. His sixth sense couldn't predict these games, man. Then we're going to discuss the NPL minors, the guys that have joined in, and the people that we're most excited to see. Obviously, my favorite is not going to be the Flyper. So that limits it down. And then we're going to discuss next week's matches. So this week, we're going to start off with probably what the biggest game of this week. Everybody will tell you that this is a game everyone was hyped for. And Greg's gonna lead us on with Gypsy v Matty.
Well, I thank you, the Flying Bird. And guys, I will tell you right now, this is easily the most hyped matchup. Probably the highlight game of the season for the NPL. It's Gypsy King and the Sydney Sharpedos taking on young Matty Brawlick and the St. Louis Reshiram's. And man, if you just look at team preview, this is I think it's rare in draft league for a team to just be severely outclassed as far as matchup is concerned. If you take a look at Gypsy King's team and what Matty has on his roster, it's just very difficult for Gypsy to come up with a roster that can, I would say, reliably be able to beat Matty in like a series of games. And it really showed in this matchup and in the scoreboard. Like, I don't think anybody would have predicted a 6-0. Do you guys think that's a pretty fair statement? I'm pretty sure.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nobody saw this coming. And while it's very easy to say that, oh, you know what, the matchup was pretty bad, like, if you go ahead and look at the replay, guys, this is just so ridiculous. If you take a look at Gypsy's roster for a moment, you'll notice one thing that's lacking, and that's a normal resist. And that's exactly what we saw in this match. Specs Meloetta just put such a dent in Gypsy's team, and it really forced him to neutralize it or neuter that Pokemon very early, tricking the Choice Scarf from Latios onto the Meloetta, which in the end just he lost his Lati, first of all. That's one thing that you'll see later on really affected. And then the Infernape took a big hit in order to help take that out, the Meloetta out. Calm Mind Magearna was actually a really interesting set that Matty brought, and I think as far as the number of sets are concerned, Calm Mind Magearna was just a fantastic Pokemon in this matchup. The dual moves of Calm Mind and Volt Switch really gained a lot of momentum, with Shaman, like catching Shaman and Toxapex, like forcing them out, and going into some of Matty's other threats were really nice. And at the end of the day, like, Magearna just kind of won once Gypsy eliminated the Latios and the Infernape. That's kind of really, I think, the pressure of Magearna plus Mega Charizard X, which it didn't even show up. Like, it just forced Gypsy to run some very interesting sets, and Matty just kind of ran away with this one. What do you guys think?
I mean, go on, Birb. You go first.
I think the hard thing to judge about this game, and I want to be completely honest, is that Maddie v Gypsy is definitely still a likely final. Even though Gypsy's had 3 losses this season, it's still a very likely outcome that these guys can play again. So I think this week, Maddie's sort of shown his best team, if that makes sense. Like, he's shown all the tricks of his team. At this point of time, if this was the final, match, they had a rematch, I think he's sort of shown off his best team. Also, Gypsy trading away Empoleon for Toxapex has sort of really cost him. But that's none of my business.
Yeah.
I think
it really cost him in this match, especially just a lot. I think what Empoleon could have done for him was basically helped deal with the Meloetta a bit better.
I mean,
it gave him
loses to the electric attack of the Meloetta, which was going to come anyway. So it's kind of you can't really call that because it's a bit of a 50-50 anyway, isn't it?
But
I mean, yeah, 50-50. Yeah, but if you have 50-50 is still a winnable option versus I have no resist to this attack, which is Sab and specs boosted. So there's a little trade-off there for sure. I think I disagree with you though, Birb. I think Maddie has a ton of other options that he can explore in a potential rematch with Gypsy.
Yeah.
And I think this team was just so well done, and I think he has a lot more options. Like some Pokemon that did show up, like the Mega Charizard X, for example. Landers didn't show up.
Can I counter that
at all?
I'll counter that.
Sure, go for it.
My counter is this. I think, as much as everyone wants to say, and I know probably Gypsy will say it as well, Magina would have been shed shell, that's why I didn't bring Dougie. This gives Gypsy a really good idea that Maddie has to bring Volt Switch Magina. Now the issue with that is if he can predict one Volt Switch, he neutralizes that Magina. Now, that means that in a rematch, Maddie's more likely to bring Shed Shell, because that was one of 2 options. This is the way that these guys think, right? I'm not giving anything away, because this is such a high caliber of players. Like, these are the way these guys think. Like, Gypsy constantly states that he builds 2 or 3 teams for a battle. So does Maddie. I think Gypsy is a phenomenal player. I think the 6-0 was definitely something was unexpected. But at the same time, I think that a rematch would definitely swing. Like, there's still 4 weeks for trades. But the thing that surprised me most about this game was just how much Meloetta did. Now, the reason I say that, Meloetta is a good Pokemon, but Gypsy made one misplay this entire game that cost him, that made it a 6-0, and that was the trick play. The reason I say that, Gypsy does go in and later the match to say, I think he gets critted with Infernape, or his Infernape dies, and he goes, dang, that's going to cost me the game because I lose my Magina switch. Well, if you didn't trick the choice, if you didn't trick the Scarf onto it, I think he made the aggressive play there when he was down, predicting Magina, but didn't need to make that play. If he just went for a Draco or whatever he wanted to go for with Buddy, it could have been a very different game. Because
if you can manage to trick the Magirta, that opens up so many more doors. But I think there was a lot of pressure that Meloetta was applying on to Gypsy's team, and fairly so. And just those plays where you're in the heat of the moment and there's a judgment call that you get wrong, and good players like Gypsy will have the hindsight to see. I don't necessarily think it's a wrong play given the team. You had to do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the Meloetta was just going to click Hyper Voice every time and take a clean at least 50 to 60% off of anything that comes in, let alone.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that, but I also agree with what Birb said. He made an interesting point about how the Gypsy didn't do anything to stop the Volt Switch plays, or he didn't do any, he didn't make any offensive moves to gain momentum back. If you watch the game, I think that Gypsy showed nowhere near as much as he could play. Like, Gypsy definitely played to about 30% or maybe less than his ability. He didn't do anything to gain momentum back after losing it. There was no real edge to any of his plays. He sort of just did the things he had to do, or he thought he had to do, but they were very, very passive and didn't gain him any momentum or ground in the game. I think that's why he ended as a 6-0. There was definitely opportunities in that game that he could have killed a couple of Mons, even if he wasn't going to win the game, because Matty had it very much in his pocket. there is certain situations where Gypsy clicked Toxic when he didn't really need to. He could have maneuvered his Mons slightly better, just so he could perhaps get a few kills here and there. I do agree with the trick play. It was very passive. If he wanted to get damage, if he wanted to get rid of a massive threat, he could have just clicked the nuke button and let the Latios go down in exchange for he can kill a massive threat to his team. But he didn't do that. I think that if these two were to play again, the result would definitely not be the same. I think I could see Gypsy coming out a lot more offensively and not just taking up losing momentum as he did in this game.
I think we spent enough time on this game because we've done 10 minutes, but this is one of the best. This is I think everyone will agree with me here. A Matty v Gypsy game is always a game of the season because it's I think universally two of the top 3 players in league format going at it, and it's just a high quality match. Even though it's a 6-0, like it just shows you that sometimes a poor matchup is something that really affects you. But let's look at the other surprising game of this week, and that was, and I'm gonna do it because it's my boy Anthony Zazo versus Trev the King. Where is that game now? What a game it was! I don't think anyone predicted that one. That was a spicy game. Definitely a lot of innovation in this game. Trev brought a few different sets that he probably, he's definitely innovated himself towards this back end of the season. It's not that same passive player that he normally is. So the matchup was Diancie, Zygarde, Necrozma with Mesprit with Rocker, Scarf Celesteela, which I don't think any of us saw coming. If it got a kill, it would have been set of the week, but 0 out of 1. Dragalge against Registeel, Mew, Heracross, Kyurem Black, Thunderai, Snorlax, and this game pretty much came down to a missed Stone Edge. I don't want to be unkind, but I know for a fact that I'm not going to spoil anything because, I know that Charty Berry was definitely an option on one of his Mons, and that could have potentially stopped the Celesteela sweep. But once that Registeel went down, I think Registeel goes down pretty early. He really had nothing for Celesteela. Oh no, it didn't go down, but he switched down. The Mew, Zazo's really loving that Super Fang Mew set. But both teams didn't bring any hazard removal, which I thought was really interesting because Zazo does have one of the best spikers in the game, being Turbo Blaze. He also does have Registeel, which was quite nice. But the stall between the Dragalge and all that, he then goes into Celesteela, nice bluff there, trying to force it out. He goes into the Diaries, goes back out, sacks Dragalge, and predicts the switch there, and the Gigavolt Havoc does Oko the Celesteela, but that Stone Edge was just the game. He goes into Mesprit trying to recover, but there's no way. Once you get the tail, you get the tail.
Yeah, definitely.
And even between the Necrozma crit was poor. I know Zazo really hated that match because of how poor the match was. But I think that's another game of just two extremely top players. Trev, easily one of the top 10 players in draft format. Zazo is pretty much renowned as one of the best, as Zazo would say. Thank goodness these guys on Birb Blitz stuck in my BBC. But yeah, it was a crazy match. It was another game that was really hyped up. These guys were talking trash since before they drafted. There's a bit of history between these two. That's not going to be brought up publicly, but the boys who know that, there's a bit of history between these two. And the fact that this game, again, was so unpredicted. I was more predicting a 3-0, 4-0. Wouldn't in my wildest dreams have predicted a 6-0.
Yeah, I mean, this game, from just clear matchup view, is very, very even. Even if as good a player as Zazo is, and Trev as well, Zazo's team, on the face of it, with the exception of Kyurem Black, looks like it might struggle with the bulky offense that Trev has. Trev has Zygarde, which is ridiculously bulky. We don't even need to talk about Necrozma, how bulky that thing is with the reliable recovery. And Celesteela plus Dragalge, as well as a Mesprit can be run bulky too, potentially screens as well. The bulk he has on his team, as well as the fact that none of them are passive, all of them hit reasonably hard. From the matchup, this was destined to be a good game. And sometimes the reasons Pokemon isn't competitive is because of Stone Miss. And rolls, and it just happens. And to be fair to Zazo, he took it perfectly, and he was extremely well mannered about it. I know some people can get a bit heated when things come like that. Both of the players took it very well, and it was just really nice to see that he took the game respectfully, and it was held in good heart as well.
Yeah, kudos to the sportsmanship. I think you guys nailed it on the dime right here. It's unfortunate for Trev, to be in a position like this. However, he does have the ability to bounce back later on in the season. So keep an eye out on these Brave areas. And Zazo sitting really clean at 7-0. Just, man, has anybody got to stop this guy?
Gypsy King 2.0. Gypsy King 2.0.
I mean, Chimpact, just saying.
Oh,
Chimpact.
No, I'm joking.
Zazo for GBA. Let's make that a trend. Zazo for GBA.
Why does Chimpact need another free win?
Oh, whoa.
Oh.
We are going to get in trouble.
Oh, no. What do you mean?
What's Chimp and Zazo?
We don't get in trouble. It's not a real podcast. Next up, talking of people getting hurt behind screens.
No.
Why don't you, Greg? Why don't you tell us about San Francisco v the Salty Vegan?
Well, let me tell you about this. We got the meat eater in Merc coming out for blood, but what he doesn't know is that vegetables don't bleed. But you know what they do? They cry, and that's basically what Toad did on turn 2 of this battle, where he's got. I'm sorry.
You're telling me Merc's an onion.
Merc is not an onion. Merc is like a grilled steak with onions on top.
Merc served the finest of sausage, and it's just.
If Chris didn't have meat before this battle, he certainly did after. I'll tell you that.
Have enough protein to win.
It was just super unfortunate for that turn where the Facade Swallow, which was really cool by the way. Like I think Swallow's often overlooked in a format like this, especially when there's so much power with the open draft, being able to draft anything without restriction. But Swallow's a very good Pokemon. And to see it just crit the Clefable, where it would have only done about, I think, roughly 40%, so 30 to 40% and whatnot. To just crit through the screen and kill the Clefable, just really just set the tone for this match, and it wasn't a very pretty one. I think what this result did was essentially put him on tilt for the remainder of the match. He kept sending in his Weavile in like behind the screen, thinking that it would do something when it's just like unnecessarily hard walls by the Klefki that Merc brought. And, with the Stealth Rocks that went up, I think Toad was just looking for a window to set up, because he had a lot of setup on his team. Like bringing the dual screens was a really cool idea. Unfortunately, the Clef got crit really early. And it just seemed like a bunch of aggressive plays, one after the other, like Agility Lucario, which actually was really cool, and had that Crocodile not have a Chople Berry, really would have put a dent in Merc's team after that. So good prep to Merc for that play, but it just seemed like Toad was just playing from behind, and the guy was just making a bunch of aggressive plays, just trying to find a window. But when you're playing such a good player like Merc, it's really hard to like find an extra window when you get crit so terribly like that. But like Merc actually brought some really cool sets. I think the Crocodile really showed off its value and its utility in this match, being able to taunt the Bronzong, for example, set up Stealth Rock, just be like a very big nuisance to Togevar's team, especially with the Chople Berry. I think it was just a very good part on Merc's end. Unfortunately, that early crit, I would have liked to see this battle commence without that crit. It's just so unfortunate that it ended up this way, and that seems to be a theme for this week, unfortunately. It's a big blowouts with some unfortunate stuff happening.
Yeah, I mean, Merc this week showed me, especially because I played in the GPC with him last season, how good he was. And this is probably the best I've seen him play since he won that championship. Like, he genuinely took hold of the game from turn 1. He took his opportunity. I mean, it was a crit, but he took the opportunity, and he just played like an absolute god from then on. He just didn't do anything wrong. Like, as much as I love Chris, he got absolutely outplayed. And I agree it was to do with tilt, but I mean, players come back from that. Like, Chris had to find a way into the game. And again, I found him doing things that just didn't really make sense with the game. Like, kept switching in the Weavile on the hazards. The Chople Berry Crook was amazing prep, and he couldn't do anything about that. But Merc played amazingly this week.
Yeah, that's another testament to Merc's ability, because a lot of times when you're gifted an opportunity like this, a lot of players tend to like lose hold of that and allowed their opponent a window of opportunity to come back into the game. And Merc just completely shut Chris out. There's like very, very few things Chris could do to find a way to come back. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with Merc's prep and Merc's battle choices during this battle, not getting impatient, knowing what he could do to wall and force out Toad's bigger threats, and had the necessary prep on his team to take care of those Pokemon like the Lucario, the Chople, for example. Bird, I know I interrupted you. What do you have to say?
That's right. I was gonna say, I just want to highlight two things, and the two things I want to highlight is one, a very good point made by Manny Brolick. It's not my own thought. So plagiarism is in little boys and girls, boys and girls resource. And he said that the reason the crit mattered so much for Fable was not so much because of the crit itself, was because Toad really locked himself into a box this week on how he was going to win. I think it was Dual Dance, Thundy, Dual Dance, something as well, and Clef was the wish. It was to keep everything healthy.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, Merc critted the Haxorus turn 1, O-coded, right? It doesn't matter that much because Clef's role is to heal everything back up. Now, the other thing I want to bring down to Turbo did say that this is the best game he's seen Merc play. I think his week 1 match he played better. I know he didn't win it, but this game was another great showing for Merc. Other thing too is Merc really emphasizes, and he tells the people this, and I think it's something really that people should know about Merc. Merc believes that the game is sort of divided into two. At least 80% of the game is your prep. So depending upon how well you prep for your opponent, it depends on the outcome of the match. He believes 80% of that is that. He believes 20% is battling. He reckons if you prep well enough, unless you choke, you will lose. This game, Merc just absolutely I don't know how to say it. Like, his prep was phenomenal. Scarf Jirachi for the Haxorus at +1. The Greninja was T-Spikes. No, it wasn't T-Spikes. It was another Spike sort of set.
Specs.
Specs, that's right. Specs. I remember that now. Specs.
Yeah, the Dark Pulse hit once the Clefable went down, like the Dark Pulse was so spammable towards the end of the game. And just Merc building. Excuse me?
Yeah. Why didn't it go Ash Greninja form? That's what I'm still lost on, but I'll never know.
It's because Merc is a cold-hearted trainer, man. He doesn't bond with his Greninja, unfortunately. But who needs to bond with your Pokemon when you can just beat him down like your Bill Belichick and just rip Arizona a new one? Oh man.
Yeah, it's definitely another game that I thought could have went either way, but that's unfortunate. The crit. I think the next game we're going to talk about is probably one of the more sort of where's Danza? Carney v Danza. Yeah, this was definitely another interesting game. I'm trying to find it now. Rewatch it. I know I sent it like 30 seconds ago as well. I found it. So I helped Danza prep this week. I won't say how much he built, but I built 95% of it at least. So Carney brought Conk, Tapu Bulu, Nila Higlo, Pidgeot, Atlantic, and Starmie against AV Serp, Excadrill, Tapu Lele, Alakazam, Kamaono, and Vaporeon. I knew from matchup that that Serp was definitely the win con. AV Serp absolutely punished Carney so much. But the thing that really got this game sort of going was when the Serp died, because Dan's into the gamesmanship. I think we need to go back to Wi-Fi battles so Danza can't tell his opponent that he's already lost when he loses his win con. He gets critted first turn. And, he misses a Leaf Storm. That Leaf Storm miss really cost him. No, Rindo Berry Melodic I thought was a very interesting bring. But, the HP Flying was a cool tech, but it dropped. If he got the Leaf Storm hit on that Melodic first, he could have had 2 layers. He would have O-coded that. But the Excadrill set was perfect this game. The Toxic, EQ, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock set was just dented Carney's team. Carney would go try to kill the Fat. She could just wish. The Bloom Doom, apparently, he got very, very lucky with. But, at the same time, I don't think Vaporeon living really mattered that much because Vaporeon was definitely uninteresting. The other time I remember turn 14, I don't know why, I just said remember turn 14. But, Tapu Lele showing why she is busted, Psyshock, the Piapa Berry, but he got, even with the crit, still lived. But then he goes into Mega Alakazam and can still finish the game off pretty comfortably. I want to be like that. If a opponent was dead, it was a different game. But at the same time, Melodic was dead, it was a different game. But like he still had the Alakazam and Diggers. He still had the Alakazam to sort of finish things off. And I was going to say Diggers, but it was Commander. Oh no! Still had enough bulk to sort of take on the Starmie Pidgeot. So, what do you guys think of that game?
I mean, I think Carney wasted a Pokemon slot in the Pidgeot. Like, it just didn't do anything the entire game and took 25% from rocks every time it came in and then didn't offer any offensive pressure at all. I think with Mons on his bench, like, I believe he didn't bring the Diggersby, did he not?
Yeah, Diggersby, bro. Diggersby, though.
It doesn't match up too well, but I mean, there's definitely a better offensive Diggersby set or even defensive Diggersby set than the Pidgeot that he brought.
I think you should drop Pidgeot for coughing, then run Nasty Stall every game.
I mean, Carney's in a hole right now, and it's a hole that is really hard to get out of. When you lose that many games consecutively, it's not nice, but he will eventually click, and it's just because he's had an absolutely rough schedule. Like,
oh my god, it's massively terrible.
I mean, I think he tried to meme out too much with his Carney tier picks, and even with the Mega Burnett as well, especially in a free draft. I think that kind of hurt him from the start. But again, I think that the fact that he's got a few too many meme picks, plus the fact that he insists on bringing them, plus the fact that there's the longevity of Tilt and his ridiculous schedule, I feel sorry for Carney, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I'm just going to say one thing. You do mention the Mega Aggron drop. The one thing that would have stopped Dance's team in this track is a Mega Aggron. Mega Aggron is, in my opinion, is the best defensive Mega in the game. You really can just pretty much run Cursed, Heavy Slam, Rest each week.
Sleep Talk.
Like, you can pretty much run that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that plus Milotic does reasonably squeeze out the whole of his team. Like I mean, he has a Tapu Lele check right there in Mega Aggron, and he drops it. So, when you just got to cover all your bases.
Yeah, I think there was kind of a missed opportunity for Carney with, I think maybe it's just like hindsight as far as like what did Danza end up bringing, but I felt like Hydreigon had a really good matchup in this game as far as like maybe like a Choice Scarf user, because Danza's team is super offensive with the builds that has like the Sand Core and like the Psychic Spam. And I think Hydreigon offered so many things for his team, and at least as far as like, a couple of key immunities, like, a ground check that Pidgeot was supposed to provide, but, what did Pidgeot end up doing in the matchup? A psychic resist or immunity. There's just so much. I feel like Carney's team is missing just something, and it's really hard for him to like pick up a win. I hope he gets one, man. This is some guy. I'm cheering for you, Carney, if you're watching this.
I mean, Riz is around that free win.
Is Rizzy Pal on his schedule?
I don't know. Let's check. Hold on.
All I know is that if he loses this week against Cloud, Riz's record is tied for most consecutive losses. Actually, no, Cypher. He's still got 5 games to go. Like, he's nowhere close. But next, like, let's keep this thing going.
Play Riz. That sucks, man.
Let's keep this thing going. Taking a while. It's only lucky that I'm here because Phil loves me and he'll let me go as long as I want to. Next up, we'll have Greg talk about Cloud v Abe.
Wait, I'm talking about the game. You know them ones.
Yeah.
Ones where you just forget about the new analyst. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about Cloud versus Abe, and Abe has just did what Abe has been doing, and he absolutely cleaned the game with his Ultra Beast squad. I mean, even from matchup, even though Abe was facing the best Pokemon in draft format ever in Empoleon, Abe's squad and building this season has been absolutely awesome. And once again, he brings a team that just completely outmatches the opponents. He knows exactly that Buzzwole is a very, very easy check or counter, and Nidoking 2 to his Mega Beedrill. The Flygon is completely outplayed in front of by the Nidoqueen, and then he just cleans the game up with Xurkitree in the end game. I think it's perfectly played by Abe. And the fact that he has a ridiculously good squad. No Altaria sweep this week, which kind of sucks, because everyone is enjoying how he's using that monster in the format, even though people don't seem to like it that much. a few in he's used the thing about Abe is he uses every single EV possible to make sure his mons are perfect, and then somehow just executes a game plan perfectly that from then on, and that's how he's getting these high differential wins week in, week out, and this is why he's a massive threat this season. I think Abe is subtly turning out to be the dark horse. Everyone's talking about Gypsy, everyone's talking about Matty, everyone's talking about Iron Flash. Just watch out for Arborforth. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Abe is playing just fantastic in this game. Like you mentioned, his Ultra Beasts are just coming in so clutch. And I think Abe's team composition really throws a lot of other coaches off guard and like off their A game a little bit as far as like what they're bringing. Because if you look at it like traditionally, people would look at Abe's roster and question like the synergy or the lack of exactly. And then he'll just bring some like, and then he'll find a way. He's so careful with his building. Or like the people in his front office, man, this guy is on a tear, and he's going to be a very big force to reckon with in the future as far as playoffs are concerned, because this guy is going to make playoffs. I'm locking it right here. What were you going to say, Birb?
He's 1 win away from playoffs, I think. 2 wins away.
Yeah, he's pretty close to clinching.
Like I kind of want to be unkind, but like this is something that no one could have predicted. Even Abe himself said he could never predict a run of going 7-1. 6-1. I mean, we'll see how it goes next week. I lose track of picks and they cut that out. But yeah, the sub Buzzwall I thought was a really nice bring this week. The just making that Fortress just free setup fodder. This is the first week Kartana hasn't gotten a kill, which made me quite sad. You know, it could have clicked X scissor and killed that Celebi, but you know, things happen. I did think the only questionable thing about Abe's prep was the Darmanitan. When you look at Cloud's team, he doesn't really do that much. It was Flash Fire, Arcanine, and sort of wall beam when attacking fire. No, Abe's like, oh, I'll be Intimidate, but it's Cloud. Cloud loves to bring unexpected stuff. He's the only guy I know to bring Choice Band Fortress 1 week, and it's swept a guy. Weeaboo. You know, like, the Flygon overpredict, you know. Now, the only thing I want to question about that is when he says about the Altaria switch, if he clicks Outrage on that Nidoqueen, it doesn't matter, because even if he clicked Thunder Punch, Abe can still go into the Altaria and still click DDR. Even if he goes for Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, Outrage, or anything, right? Because pretty much Altaria second when it Mega Evolve resists everything. So that's Flygon was very questionable. I was very surprised not to see Manectric, because that's his because I would have thought Manectric would have been a lot better way to punish that Circuit Trick. I think it gets synchronized as well, which is an incredible move. It was a good game. But on to the next. Let's look at the next game. Let's look at the Phoenix versus the Florida. Who's won that game? I forget.
I think that's going to be your boy Regulator. This is basically the matchup of Tapu Fini taking on Rizzy Pow in the Phoenix Sunkern. This matchup was actually probably one of the better games to watch this week, in my opinion. I think it was very, if you guys watch this game, you'll see it was such a big struggle for momentum throughout the entire match. That's kind of like the vibe that I would get. Sebastian and Rizzy Pow kind of struggling around between like Serena, for example, and the Tapu Fini. A lot of U-turning out. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but not the Tapu Fini, the Serena took a huge chunk, like a very good chunk from that Scissor's U-turn and just ate it up. And it really kind of threw Sebastian for a loop. I think the doubling around between, what's it called? The Hoopa Unbound and the Tapu Fini. It was just a match of like really going back and forth between seizing momentum. And I think one of the big turning points in this matchup was being able to finally weaken down the Gudra with between Toxic and his Raikou and knocking that Pokemon out relatively early, and also getting rid of Serena, because those led to some openings for young Zygarde 10%, just clicking Choice Bandit Earthquake towards the end of the match. And if you notice with Riz's team, his lack of a ground, like a switch into Thousand Arrows was very prominent. He really relied upon Serena for that kind of role, and Hippowdon especially. But as we saw with just a little bit of chip damage from early on, easily 2-hit KO'd by the Banded Doge. And I think Sebastian was really able to seize control at the end. Yeah, he made a couple of interesting plays, clicking the Toxic in the Misty Terrain. Shout out to Merc. I don't think I forgot about that. Clicking, what was it, Rest in the Misty Terrain when he was playing Sebastian?
Twice.
Yeah, twice. I think Sebastian also clicked Toxic twice in this matchup as well.
No. If we're going to talk about the Merc game, the funniest thing was no Poison Hill to score Gliscor.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was definitely another interesting thing to note. But, in this matchup, I think Sebastian did a great job of weakening the checks for his Zydar to win late in the game. And it was a game about pivoting all of this, like in this matchup. And I think both players did a really good job as far as gaining momentum. Riz really annoyed Sebastian with his Serena and his Hoop Unbound. The Mega Kangaskhan actually taking a nice clean 75% from the Tyranitar was amazing because that was one of the bulkier mons that Sebastian needed to get rid of. I mean, yes, he had Slowbro to check it like very well, but just the fact that anytime you can just get rid of Mega Kangaskhan and have it do like very little, I think that's a win for you. So,
now you're talking about Mega Kangaskhan. I brought an interesting point to Breeze. Mega Kangaskhan this season, as much as Brizzy is doing so much better than he did last season, Mega Kangaskhan is tanking like Blunder's SPL season. It's like everyone before the season started was like, no, Mega Kangaskhan is broken. Anyone who was like observing the MPL that was their main opinion, right? This season it hasn't. The same with Tapu Lele actually, which we'll come to later. It hasn't, or no, we might have just we haven't spoken about it as much. Like it hasn't been a massive kill leader. It hasn't had the great influence on games that it perhaps should have. And that might show that the MPL was right to test it because, okay, Riz is using it alongside a Hooper Unbound and he had a Necrozoma earlier in the season. Like, it's not like he had bad support. It's just, maybe it is time to bring Mega Kangaskhan back generally to the format. That's just my point out there. Just throwing it out there.
I will say, though, that the NPL is filled with some of the best coaches. So some people, like I would just say counter for maybe a couple other leagues out there. Maybe Mega Kangaskhan is not the Mega Evolution. It does take a lot of like very careful planning. Like you're seeing like Rocky Helmet Slowbro, and I think a lot of teams are very well drafted in the NPL to somewhat be able to check Mega Kangaskhan. I say somewhat because it's still people are going through and like forcing like Rocky Helmet on their Pokemon to deal with it. And yeah, that's the best way to deal with a Mega Kang. Just forcing it to take residual damage through that method. But these NPL coaches just showing the testament that they have, being able to incorporate checks to this behemoth in their team prep and just being able to come away with wins against the great Rizzy Pow is just fantastic, really. I think some of the really nice plays, I don't know. This was a great game to watch. I think this is as much as like as far as the matchup was concerned, I think a lot of people overlooked this one, but I think it turned out to be one of the best games of this week.
Definitely.
As far as like an entertainment and a viewing perspective is concerned.
Can I just raise one thing? Top Tier Boy is proving why he is the greatest GSCOU player of all time. He has taken a Raikou from Gen 2 all the way to Gen 7. I mean, Ricardo's right. We need Ricardo as an analyst. Ricardo, if you are watching this, come week 12, we could be on the weekly podcast with me and Sebastian. That's going to be fun. Ricardo, please, I love you. But that's really all to say about this game because we're taking a long ass time to get through these games. But next up we have the Baltimore Braviaries with the Chicago Beavers. I think that's the last game for this week. I hope it's the last game for this week.
Dude, you forgot the commissioner, or what are you doing?
Oh, that's right. We'll do that next.
Blake's game is my game. Actually, both of them are my game, so we'll just do that. Blake's game was Blake versus Razor. Was a really, really interesting game purely because the early game, not really much happens. It's just sort of pivoting around, both players just trying to find a foot in the game. Blake then gets 2 kills on the Crobat and the Gyarados, and from then on, he gets a big crit. Well, he says it's not a big crit, but I think it is with the Donphan set he's running on the Garchomp, which allows him then to just set the game perfectly. He has a vision of the end game for him then to clean with the Mimikyu. The fact that his Donphan is able to get into Custat range, because the reason the crit was so big on the Garchomp that I think Blake overlooked is the fact that if the Donphan takes 2 rounds of damage from the Garchomp, he gets put into Custap range before he kills the Garchomp, which means that he can't get the kill on the Heliolisk, which makes the end game for Blake slightly harder, depending on whatever the Heliolisk set could have been to his team, which he didn't know at that time. So getting the Donphan into Custap range when the Garchomp was alive is not ideal for Blake. The way it worked out was that Blake was able to pop the Custap when the Heliolisk was switched in, and that's how he won the game so easily. But credit to him in the early game by just purely pivoting around and getting the kills when he needed to, so that Mimikyu could just come in and click Shadow Sneak. A really inventive Mimikyu set, actually. I really like the way that Mimikyu has been used, and it's actually showing that is a very fun and interesting mon to be used in a draft format with the tech of the Trick Room on there as well. That's really nice. That's basically it with this game. It's not too complicated, very standard, very high competent lead match.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting game. The Trick Room Victini, I think, was probably one of the sets of the week. The Glaciate, it was interesting. Slow down the wall. I actually don't know why he didn't bring Victini with Trick Room. Wouldn't that have been the smarter bring? But that's alright. It's a win's a win, as my dad always says. He played very well. The Shadow Sneak, it's a 2-0 in my eyes. And last, let's do the Commissioner, because otherwise I'm going to get yelled at again.
In my opinion, Jolt Shardy was the match of the week. I think it came very close with the Top Tier Boy and the Phoenix game as well. But I think that this game just showed 2 extremely good coaches who spend a lot of time in prep, a lot of time testing and finding the optimum results for the teams, and then them battling it out. But Jolt, I think at the end of the day, just came out and played amazingly with his Mandibuzz, and I think that Jolt is a very good player in that sense, that he takes a mon that's kind of sort of average and creates a niche strategy or a strategy that he knows works and just plays it perfectly, and when he does, he wins games, and that's how it works. He played the Mandibuzz perfectly. Shadi just couldn't really gain the momentum that he needed to win the game. He has this meme chilling in the back. He has the spicy meme, as he would say, with the Silvally in the back, and there's plenty of opportunities he could have set up, but he didn't. When the Ferrothorn was in and he doubled into the Metagross, there was 3 turns. Ferrothorn hit Protect one turn, he hit, and then he doubled into the Metagross on the other turn, and the turn before, the Ferrothorn didn't do any, it was the switch in. And Shadi knew that was going to happen all 3 of those turns. He knew that Metagross was coming in one turn, he knew probably he would Scout one turn, and then knew the Ferrothorn was coming in on the other turn, which is 3 prime opportunities to get out Silvally, and he didn't do that, and that's why I don't think he took the matchup in the game.
I think Shardy naming Stevie Wonder as a Tangrowth is a really bad nickname, because when you miss things, people just laugh. This was definitely an interesting game because of the Mandibuzz set. The Mandibuzz set did so much work, but I didn't really like the Lop set. The Encore was pretty cool tech, but it didn't really do much. I think having Drain Punch or HJK would have just broken Shardy's team a lot more. No Manaphy this week. You can't replace Joey Pokemon if you're not going to bring Manaphy every week. I thought it was a really good game, but apart from, it was what some people call game of the week, but I still can't get over that hype of Gypsy being about it, and regardless of the result, to me that's game of the week. The hype around that, but if we were going to talk about how close the game was and things like that, I don't know what I'd give game of the week. What do you think of this game, Greg?
I think this game was a very, Turbo was mentioning, this game is clearly probably one of the top 2 games played this week, in my opinion. I think the only reason I would say this game was not as good as the Top Tier Boy Rizzy Pow game is mainly that Toxic Miss really took it was such a, I guess some people may say it was a minor moment, but Shadi really suffered a lot because it really didn't get that Pokemon into the correct range for later on in the matchup or wearing it down. So that was pretty unfortunate for Shadi, just really unfortunate for him. But this was a really well played game, and Jolt and Shadi are 2 of the really more careful builders. Jolt being more careful and more tech savvy, Shadi being just spicy all over, and it was a very good clash, and it was very entertaining to watch.
So sorry to cut you off there, Greg, but we need to start getting through this because otherwise we're getting in trouble. Transactions, Silvally for Gardevoir, definitely interesting to see. We'll see how that one goes between the Bay and Munich and Detroit Butterfrees. We're not going to discuss transactions this week because we have a very important announcement to make this week, and that's something I want to do.
We then have the free agent by Razor, Pillar Swipe for Swampert. I think that's definitely a good trade. Alright, now let's get into the minors. So, NPL minors have started up this week. They just finished drafting the other day. I'm going to look at the doc so I can announce it. So, a lot of people probably saw a lot of tournament games going on. Me and Turbo were part of the tournaments, but not Jolt loves me too much as an analyst. So, let me just read off the teams for you guys here. We have Muse the Best, coach of Portland Trail Blazers, Magic/Dancer 2.0, SC Popolo, Asta J, Montreal Habsold, Tone, the main Red Clawitzes, Little Rob, Gotham City Golex, Sky, Scandinavian Stoutlands, Monotui, Tampa Bay, Lux Base, JB Productions, aka Jar, coaches Toronto Star Raptors, Friesy Fries, coach of the Rotterdam Star Raptors, Daniki, the Rosen, how do you pronounce that, Turbo?
Rosenborg.
Rosenborg.
Oh god.
That sounds weird. The Verb, coach of the Tampa Bay Frogadiers, Fog, coach of the Colorado Avalugs, Uzi Gunner, Bullet Punch Club, Ashnakai, AS Rowlet, Glover, Temple Rowlets, Ace of Base, Anaheim Altarios. Now let's get through this really quick. I want to have more time for this, but unfortunately we don't. Who are you guys most excited to see? I'm going to go last, but Turbo, take it away, man.
My pick is gonna be obviously you've got Mono who just bent PPL D2 over and had his way with it, but everyone's gonna be picking Mono, so I'm gonna be a bit out there. I'm gonna say Daniki. Daniki's just coming off 2 successive championships in the MPL, as in Major Pokemon League. So I think Daniki could be a really, really interesting one there as well. He's a very, very competent player that's used to Wi-Fi as well. That's a he's used to Wi-Fi, but he also plays Showdown as well. So I think that could be an interesting one. Why was I thinking you're playing on Wi-Fi? I got confused with the MPL there. But yeah, I know he's got a good drafting style and he has a very, very distinct play style. He likes to play bulky offense. He's a very, very reliable player, and I think that Daniki could be making a statement on the minors this season, in my opinion.
What about you, Greg?
Speaking of the G's, I'm going to go with the Gotham City Goalers, coached by Rob Jr., aka PokeTCG Gamer. And I'm so excited for Rob. Rob's one of the few coaches that I've seen play very well. And one of the things that I really like about Rob is he's such a creative and, I guess, very adaptable builder as far as his league matches go. He's willing to play multiple styles, whether it be balance or semi-sol, hyper offense. He's got a very good grasp of team building and ways to come up with unique win conditions that can win him a lot of games. And he also has a very good history in Smogon tier. I mean, obviously, like, being a standard player doesn't make you a good league player, but what the standard play does allow you to do is get into that mindset of being a good seer or foreseer of win conditions. And with such a versatile player like Rob, I'm really excited for him to apply himself in this league and do very well. I think he's probably one of the top contenders in my opinion.
I think back on Little Rock, I think he's another Gypsy King type thing. He was a nobody last season of MPL Minors. A lot of the boys didn't know who he was, and he really made a name for himself. I think he made top 4 from memory, but he made a massive name for himself. I know that a few of the boys up top have compared him to a Gypsy at times, saying that, like, give this kid another 2 seasons and he could be that level good. He shows so much promise. His battling is an absolute phenom of a player. His building at times is phenomenal. There's times where I know that he likes to consult Gypsy at times, where Gypsy will tell him, like, don't touch the team, it's that good. And I think for him as well, like, he has that consultation. But I think if he has the belief in himself, I think if he believes he can win this season, I think he will. He lacks a bit of confidence at times. That's his only flaw. But my boy is going to toss these people on his necks. He is going to bend over that Ratatouille kid. He's going to, I know Shardy and Merc were laughing at his team name, but they're bad players, so we don't really care what they say. All right, now let's quickly go over the preview for next week.
I will say, though, Rob, if you need a hype man, come hire me. Come find me. You will be...
Beg.
Okay, so...
I'm sorry.
It's all love. It's all love.
First and foremost, let's start looking at the previews for this week. We're just going to do like a pick and crew type thing. Arizona v Atlanta. Who are you going for?
Arizona.
They both have shit luck, so I'm gonna flip a coin. Atlanta.
I reckon from the point. I'm going for Trev. Trev's the greatest minus commissioner of all time.
Oh,
Yes, he's the only money.
Birb, settle down. Settle down.
Easy there.
Easy.
All right, we move
All right.
on to the Toronto Star Raptors and the Brisbane Breloons. Who do you guys got?
I got the Braylons on this one.
Abe.
I'm gonna have to go with Jolt and those Toronto Star Raptors.
St. Louis. So Danza v Merck.
Merc every day of the week.
Merc.
Jersey v Vancouver.
Oh, that's
Cloud, Cloud v. What's
I'm gonna go with Carney. I'm gonna go with Carney on this one.
Cloud. Make him 0-8.
I think I've got Cloud on this one as well. I'm not gonna.
I just need my heart to let him see a win. That's really what I just want.
Oh no, it's not. It's no wait.
It's Cloud versus the Devils.
No. It's Merc v Maddie. Lol.
Oh,
Merc v Maddie.
huge.
I'm still gonna go with
I
Merc.
picked Merc
I'm gonna
still.
go. I'm gonna go with Merc.
Yeah, I like how we. I was like, oh, we're playing Maddie. Let's also go with Merc.
You know, he just 6-0 Jitsu King, but we're gonna still go with
Yeah.
Merc. No
Los-
offense, but
Yeah, Los Angeles, which is Danza v Chicago, which is Razor.
I'm going with the Razor on this one.
Turbo.
I think Danza, because of just his team's better.
I reckon Danza. Riz v Shardy.
Oh,
Shoddy.
I
Shardy.
think Shardy's gonna finally pull a win out, a convincing one as well against Riz.
Okay, this is the game. This is like game of the season in my eyes. Zazu v Gypsy.
Oh Jesus, man!
Mm.
I think
go with Gypsy
Gypsy's
King
gonna
on
do
this
it.
one.
I think Gypsy's
There's no
gonna
way
do it.
Gypsy drops 2 games in a row. You heard it here.
Zazu. I always have my boys back. I don't care who he plays. He's gonna win unless it's Chimpact.
Boner
Okay.
intensifies.
Oh, my pants! I've sold my pants.
Oh god.
Then I think last we got Baltimore versus Florida.
Florida.
I mean, I think Florida. Yeah, sorry, Blake.
Yeah,
Alright,
Blake, it's
guys.
unfortunate.
Sorry for the rush at the end, but it's time constraints. I'm employed by Mama Jolt. He gets to whack me if I muck up, and I get whacked enough by my daddy Brolix belt. Please, save Birb. But thanks guys for joining. I think this one's a lot more in depth about weekly recap. But next time, I hope you guys are excited for minors. Check them all out. Definitely some high quality matches. The draft recap should be going up this weekend, and then next Thursday should be the first week. If not, I hope Trev the King will make it top comment what the upload schedule is. If not, Trev's lazy and doesn't deserve to win this week. Until next time, peace.
Bye.
Peace out.